We are back at this Italian Heritage Month interviews, and I have my good friend Yumi ahead of me. And let me introduce her. She has an unbelievable story, is very, very involved in the wine industry. She harvested all over Italy, is a sommelier. She's got always up to something fun, and I had to bring her on because I wanted to inspire all of you about if you have something you want to do, she's a go-getter. She gets what she wants. If she has an idea, she thinks with her heart and does what she believes is best for her. And that's why I wanted to bring her on. So Yumi, welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I start off all these interviews with just a question of what's your favorite memory of Italy? You've been there many times, and I want to know which one is your favorite. And I'm going to assume it has to do something with wine.
Of course. Definitely wine related. Definitely the motivation. I say when I close my eyes and visualize that, it's so hard to think, but the one that I will always be gravitated towards is definitely my winemaking experience in Sicily, the town of Vittoria. And it was something to me that just thinking about it and getting those moment, like I'm actually here doing harvest. This is crazy. And meeting great people, being in a winery, connected there. It just feels like a movie scene, and learning the language too was a great opportunity. And those moments, those dinners, just cooking, we had so much fun, and it wasn't based on the monetary expenses. That's something that we'll get into it, but it was more about creating memories and experience. So just sitting there and working the harvest in Vittoria.
Now, where is Vittoria? Is it more inland or by the coast?
A little bit by the coast, by Siracusa, Ragusa, okay. More on the southeast. Am I allowed to mention the winery, or that's cool?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, all right.
Shout out your friends.
Huh?
Shout out your friends. This is
okay. It cost Giusto Occhipinti. That was my first Sicilian harvest with Giusto Occhipinti, Tienda Agricola Cos. They're well known for their frappato, which is the variety that's more in that area, southeast, and also their Nero d'Avola. But it was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, fun. That's got to be fun. I mean, I've been to a bunch of different vineyards in Italy, but I never really worked it. Mm-hmm. It's like it's a whole other ball game when you're actually there, pulling all the grapes. Did you hand pick them or you use the machine?
Hand picked them.
Wow.
Handpicked them, and that year was 2016. We actually had to do a lot of de-leafing, which is a process in winemaking, and where sometimes the grape need a little bit more maturity from sunlight. So you need to take few leaves, so that way the sun contact would be more a little directly, so that way it would sort of mature a little bit faster. So we got to do a lot of that. So my hands were just like, of course, I wanted to be part of the experience, wearing no gloves and nothing, and just sort of like putting my hands, getting the dirt, getting the juices. Like, it was just crazy. I was like, yeah, I really made this wine. So it was a lot of that. And also, but of course, there are different methods within the winemaking. You bring it and you use something called the press, and then that's a whole different cycle.
So, I wanted to have this conversation because I find it just so inspiring. First and foremost, because I know a lot of people are interested in wine. But how the heck did you get into this? Like, that's kind of where I want to start. Because just a little background on yourself, because you have Italian, descent in a way, but you're not like a first generation Italian. You have a more Dominican background.
Right? Yeah, I'm 100% Dominican, mostly European.
Italian.
Huh?
You didn't even speak Italian when you started, and now you speak beautiful.
Exactly. Yes.
It's very inspiring. Like, you went and you did something, you learned something new, you were really interested in the culture. So, like, if I was interested in wine and I wanted to get involved, it's like, how did you get started?
Absolutely. And tapping into that, definitely Dominican. My family, probably based on Dominican Republic, we do have European background, traced to probably the time of Christopher Columbus. Who knows? So, but I consider myself very Dominican and also American. That's something important. I was raised here and living in Newark, New Jersey, which is a big Portuguese and Spaniard from Galicia background. I got to get to know that culture of wine, my friends, their family. It was just always around, and I just always had that curiosity. It just looked so eloquent and so elegant, and it was just like cool. And, you know, being a college kid and, you know, asking for what's your house Merlot just had a certain kind of connotation that, you know, it just elevated you, you know, you sounded fancy, you know, going to these places. So I had the opportunity to start discovering the food and wine scene and getting to know wine through that. And as a career change due to the recession, I was able to merge into that. And then I started studying a certificate program called WSET, which is some avenue that a lot of folks would take either in the professional industry or just for fun. And then that just took me to where I am. I had no industry contacts. I started from scratch. I was in my late 20s and I just was really excited. That's all I had. I started volunteering, pouring for shows, emailing people, meeting people for coffee, sending them my resume, getting with no shame and just sort of like, look at my resume, give me your opinion, and started having these conversations, which brought me to different folks. And I still remember my first job. So that's how I got into it. I started through retail and I just worked my way into wine. But yeah, I'm just a Dominican kid with no background, but I do appreciate the Italian culture in the sense that I worked with a lot of Italian groups here and okay. Yeah, no worries. Do not disturb. So, so I work with a lot of Italian, and I've have family also living in Italy. So there is a connection to Italy, very profound. So that's how I got into wine. Just in a sum, that's how I got into wine. 11 years later, I am here.
That's awesome. So now you went to, when was your first wine harvest? So did you do them in other parts other than Italy?
I've done 11 harvests. I have 11 harvests under my belt. That's Italy, crazy. Spain, Portugal, France, and New Zealand. My first harvest was in Spain, actually. And it was one of those Cinderella dreams in where I fell in love with this wine. And I'm like, wow, there's more than Rioja out here. And this is me just discovering the wine business and getting into it. And I became what we call the disciple of this winemaker, and I would sell his wines. And then I had the opportunity to meet him in person. And one thing to another, it was just magical. And I told him about my passion. And he said, you know what? Give me your contact information. 3 days later, the guy calls me. It's like, you're in. You really want to learn how to make wine? Come with us. You'll have that opportunity. And it was just euphoria, you know, just coming from like looking a bottle of wine, saying, well, I like this wine. I appreciate what they do, and understanding all that and going into this world. And then boom, all of a sudden you're in that harvest, making that wine, getting to know that world. It's mind blowing to me. And I'm hooked on harvest. And
I can only imagine. It's probably so much fun.
Yeah.
On the grand scale, like I made like wine at the house, like my group, you know, back like in the home, you know, and then we also did, there's like a wine you design in Long Island where we went in and they had like, I did it with my dad one time. My family got a gift certificate. And, you know, I can only imagine going on that grand scale, actually working it, like the whole entire process, beginning to end. That's gotta be fun. That's gotta be fun.
That's gotta be fun. And coming back to the Italian, connection, I would say the Italian connection. My first harvest in Italy was Trentino Alto Adige, with also a similar story with Elisabetta Foradori. She's probably one of the top leading woman winemaker in all of Italy and all over the world. Her work is just really outstanding. She's really not only involved in the process of winemaking, but she's also involved in universities discovering new grape varieties, something called amphilography. So to me, it was just like the second coming. I'm like, really, she accepted me. Like going into that harvest, it's being involved in a waiting list. Like it was crazy. So I get a message from the person herself and she's like, come through. I'm like, no, you're kidding me. I paused my life. You have to be open and really, I would say, have that honest conversation with yourself when you're doing this, because obviously there's time commitments, there's responsibilities that you probably have in your location or where you live. So these are honest conversations that you need to have. But one thing I would say, you shouldn't limit yourself and not be afraid to take that leap. I paused my life that year. I was not taking any full-time jobs. I was working as much as I could, definitely involved the community and the collective, and got everyone involved to actually support me in the sense of moral support and all of the above, to go there and fulfill my dream. When you speak out loud, people hear you. And that's something that I feel that I've been very fortunate to really vocalize my passion and going out there.
Oh, you did it though.
Right.
That's like the big thing, is I feel like you hear a lot of noise from around, but like you actually went and you did it, which is, you know, the respectable thing, and the part where, you know, I've always gravitated to, because like first and foremost, your energy is incredible, because you do all these things and you put it down, you know what I mean? And you're really going for it. And that's like, it's just an inspiring thing. It's an inspiring thing to be around. And, you know, hopefully if someone is interested in wine, they can kind of follow that lead in the sense. Like would there be like a recommended thing to do? Like you should go you started working at the wine spot. That's how you started, you said?
Absolutely. Yes. I started. So you, first and foremost, you have to find the niche that you're comfortable with. I would say to get a foot in the door, there are many ways. If you already have a seasoned career, start matching your skill sets and what you could offer and intertwine that. Definitely knowledge. The certificate does help. Once you're committed, it just enhances your knowledge, or, you know, just really elevates you on putting yourself out there and you're committed. And then, yeah, starting knocking on doors. Now that it's the holiday season, you know, just get a retail job and see, or part-time, or however it is, just really match. That was my entry. Retail to me was that leading path, and where it got to me, I already worked in retail and I had sales experience. So it was just connecting the pieces together. I spoke different languages. So I started at a small little wine shop in Soho. It was all Spanish wine. So it was very catered to that. So I brought my.
Yeah, that's it. That's like a good, like, kind of, yeah, that's smart.
It's smart. Just analyze yourself. I think resumes, there's this stigma that, and it's part of our culture too, in where this chronological form of dictating and putting your experiences feels so tight and so limited. Remember, you're marketing yourself, you're putting yourself out there. Analyze yourself, have fun with it. Start jotting down the things and the attributes that you have about yourself, and start categorizing. If you speak different languages, if you have done other things within your community, start enhancing it. It's a version of you and what you could give and how you could stand out. So that's my approach, and that's how I got into it. And of course, you know, a little bit of personality always helps.
Yeah. Well, now, so that brings you to today, right? So now you've been in the city this whole entire time, through all this Corona, and
absolutely.
And you're in the restaurant scene there, so this has got to be crazy right now. Like, what's your take on what's going on right now?
Absolutely.
What's going on? Like,
I'm glad you brought that question, because a lot of us in the restaurant industry, I have close to 7 years working in the restaurant industry with the beverage. I'm also sommelier, and I worked in places like Marea, Michelin Star driven places, Masa, and other Italian places. Also Eataly Downtown, I was part of that beverage team. I opened up that team, and also working with other groups, restaurant groups in New York.
The downtown?
Huh?
You opened up downtown or
Downtown by World Trade Center. And I went into it, of course, always wine, but the restaurant was just that avenue, and we're provided a lot of us folks in the industry to get into the wine business or the beverage sector, and just really formulate a path. Right now, it's unpredictable, it's uncertain. I think that our industry took a huge hit, psychologically, economically, we are having this conversation among the community, but it's just a work in progress right now. To me, a beverage person is a little challenging to meet those demands. I think that when it comes to career, now is the time to start merging skill sets and start looking outside the box. This is something that it could be fortunate and unfortunate, because as a beverage individual, the jobs are very, very limited. And also beforehand, we were seeing this change in the climate of hiring. A sommelier just was not the only person that brought the beverage in. You had to meet certain responsibilities within the restaurant to justify your role. Right now, it's very, excuse me, sorry, it's very hard.
Hydrate.
I told you I needed my water. I cannot make it into wine. I don't have those magical tricks, but I do make wine. So I'm not there yet.
You have to drink. You've been running all these marathons lately. And
oh my God.
Though, take away from the wine for a second. You're like the dancing queen on Instagram these days.
I am. And it's hilarious because it's a phase that when I think about it, it's like, really? But I've always been like this dancer, but I guess projecting it on social media was never really like a big thing. And I've been dancing ever since I was 8 years old. So I've been dancing a lot of different dances and also different folk dances and stuff like that. I like to keep it entertained. And I guess it's a huge hit, you know?
No, hey, listen, I don't know. We haven't spoke about your dating life at all, but we might have to, maybe this is going to be like a little promotion for you, because I know you like Sicilian guys. We got to find you a Sicilian guy. So anyone who's watching, you can take interest.
Take interest, call, right? And this is going to be my...
she'll cook for you. She'll get you drunk.
I speak Italian. I love it. Right? This is a promotion. I love this. This is a great marketing promotional video. I love it. I love it.
You got a little blush going on now too.
I am. I mean, you put me there on blast.
Spot, baby. This is what it is. This is what these interviews are.
I love it. I'm like red right now. But yeah, so just getting back into the whole restaurant atmosphere, it's very challenging right now for a lot of us. I'm still also waiting to get myself integrated into the restaurant, as a lot of us are taking our time, and now is the time.
I heard they just passed a new rule. I was talking to my cousin. I mean, granted, the city's a little different, but in Long Island, if you have a tent outside, you got to adhere now to the indoor rules. So you only could be at like 25% capacity, wherever it was 50% capacity. It's like the same rules. So you can't put people outside anymore and think it's like okay. So it's limiting how much people you can put into the place again. So it's just like another hit. It's crazy. In the city, forget it, it's even tougher. I want to have Mayor de Blasio on here. I want to talk to Mayor de Blasio. I want to say, because he comes from the town next to me in Italy.
Correct.
And I want to have a conversation with him, and I want to see, like, what are your plans? Because I haven't heard nothing.
Also, well, I mean, you got to get Como on board too. I mean, aim higher, but definitely De Blasio. I know he's from Campania, right? He is.
De Blasio, for me, if I tell him, listen, you're from the town, literally 5 minutes away.
Start campaigning. Start contacting their.
This is the start, Yumi. All right, we got to tell people De Blasio and Cuomo. I want to talk to you. Italian Heritage Month. We still got. We're only on the 6th. Okay, so we got another 25 days here to get this to make this happen.
Let's do it. Let's start petitioning. Somebody knows. Who knows De Blasio? Start the campaign.
Yeah.
Does anyone know De Blasio? Let's get him on board. Use your peeps. Definitely. That's funny. To me, it's definitely an honor to be invited here, due to the fact that I'm seeing it from another perspective, but it's also a good perspective on how the Italian culture has also impacted other ethnic groups and the similarities. I think that Latinos and Italians, there's a lot of, especially Southern Italians, I think that there's a lot of similarities in the warmth and the openness, and we both enjoy the music, the food, we're loud, we have a family concept. So for me, getting assimilated into the Southern culture was definitely easy. And the fact that I'm able to speak the language, which to me was a personal goal. I told myself that I wanted to go back every time I went and visited Italy and learn and have a conversation. To me, a language is very imperative in communicating, and that has helped me.
You're doing a great job. Because, like I said, I mentioned this before. Last time we had the conversation, I was like, I feel like you speak better Italian than a lot of the people that I know. It's
Oh,
wild.
it helps out. It helps
You made a
out.
goal for yourself and you did it. So it just shows if you really want something. That's like the theme of this, where if you want something, you go and you make a goal for yourself and you make it happen. And whatever you gotta do along the way, whatever you gotta surround yourself to be a support system for you, you make it happen. I think that's like the theme I want to go with here with you, because it's just you embody that. And
I appreciate
I
that.
appreciate you the most. I think that anytime we have a conversation, I have like a smile afterwards, because you just like I said, the energy is good.
The energy's good. And something I want to highlight, I think also the Italian community, or my experiences, I have been very welcomed and not stereotyped or judged. And whether there's a help of improving my language, the Italian grammar, or anything, or just really being welcomed into.
I think the newer generation is more welcoming.
Absolutely.
I think that, there's like this stereotype, and there's some truth to it, that like Italians don't support each other, or, like they could be a little cold to Americans and whatnot. And there's like some truth to it to a degree. But I think like now, a lot of the younger generation, like we're really here to help. Like I genuinely want to support other Italians. And I think a lot of people feel the same exact way. And then, you even mentioned a story to me, which I'd like for you to talk about when you were in Milano, when you were first learning Italian. You mentioned that someone said something to you. So like,
absolutely, I could share that story.
Please tell me.
Well, Milano, and it's the same location too. That's the funny part. I feel like it's a running episode. Train station, Milano Centrale. Definitely, I was running an errand, post office, and I had difficulties communicating with the clerk. And someone shouted from sideways and said, "Well, I don't understand why they come here and they don't learn the language and they're holding us up." And then all of a sudden, someone was like my superhero and came through, and she advocated and translated and said, "Enough is enough. This is the problem of the stereotype here and why people don't help each other. Tell me what you need. I'm not going to move. I'm going to translate for you." And even her, she displayed that sense of frustration as a local, and where you're giving us a bad fame. They're here as tourists, including me in the collective. Tourists come to Milano to support. Let's be a little bit warm and let's be a little bit open. And she was amazing. And then in the frustration, I told myself, I'm gonna learn Italian. I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna make it a point. And I made it a goal. And I came back and formulated this little agenda, watching films, listening to music, also asking my winemaking friends or people that I knew that are in the Italian community in Italy and here, and started just really getting to know Italian and not being afraid, which I think it was very important. If I mispronounce something, please tell me how it is, correct it. And that's how I started. And then little by little, I just built a vocabulary into where I've done it at business level, and I've translated for winemakers, and I'm very comfortable speaking. Of course, it's still a work in progress, but it's amazing. So that was my story. So out of a bad, something good came out. And
yeah, one of the people I have coming on, I think we're doing it next week. My buddy's gonna show how you get Italian Netflix for anyone who wants to learn how to speak Italian. You can go and you can get Italian Netflix and watch, like, there's some funny movies. And when I was over his house last week, we watched this movie, hilarious. And it has like the subtitles on the bottom, so you can try and follow along. I like doing the Italian subtitles.
Mm-hmm.
So you see like the way, especially in the dialects, how they spell the words, and like just the grammar and stuff. That's what helps me. But we're gonna have him on next week, and he's gonna tell if you want to learn Italian, how to get Italian Netflix.
Oh, I would love to see it. I'm
It's
about
gonna be a
it.
quick one.
I'm
It's
about
gonna be
it.
like 10, not even 10 minutes. It's gonna be like, go, hey, so you go over here, you gotta download this, you gotta get
I love it. I mean, because I'm kind of tired of the material that's on American Netflix, to be quite honest. I think I watched all the reruns of so many shows, so it's great. And it's interesting because once you start learning, you get to pick up the certain dialects.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, I have family in Rome, so the first time I went there.
Zac Efron just did something. I'm looking it up right now. Netflix.
Oh,
Down to Earth. Down
Yes.
to Earth. You watched it?
Not yet, but I hear great reviews.
Yumi, it is awesome. It's like the best show I've seen in a while. It's literally the best show I've seen in a while. So they go to all over the world, right?
Yes.
They start out in Iceland. Iceland, the episode's incredible.
Yes.
And then they go, like, each one, the Costa Rica one is amazing. And then they go to Sardinia.
Mm-hmm.
Sardinia is it's one of like 8 blue zones where it's the highest concentration of centennials, so people over 100 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and why they live that long. And they go into like the whole reason why and they go to Sardinia for this. People in this area live for so long, and they like interview all these people that are like 106. It's incredible. It's an awesome show. It is a really awesome show. They did a great job on it.
Did they speak about some kind of diet or their concept?
It's just a way of living. High activity, low stress is like kind of the formula. An
Which is
active,
very
low stress
interesting.
lifestyle.
Which is very interesting, right? It's an island. It's a little bit out there, and also the Sardinian culture has a lot of Catalan, also from Spain influence. So even in the dialects, also Southern Italian has that. So
Naples, that's why the Neapolitan is so close to Spanish.
Absolutely. So that also helps. So whoever speaks Spanish is definitely a way to integrate smoothly into the culture. That's also another thing too. What attracted me in Italy, period. The food, the wine, the people, also the differences in so many different regions. I think once you go there, and I've been very blessed to go many times, and there's always a new discovery whenever I go. It's always something different when it comes to the language and the heritage. But what gravitates me, is the South.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Italy, it brings a certain kind of emotion. In the wine business is the type of wine that I visualize myself doing in the future, collaborating there, and it's something that speaks to me.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to that, I just feel like I see a lot of similarities in places where I've been, where I travel. The fact that you go to Palermo and there are Arabic, Hebrew, and Italian and English street descriptions, to me that was something that I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. It really shows you the melting pot of and layers of different cultures.
Sicily's got they've been invaded by everyone, so they got influence from like all over the place.
Or in the food, I was actually having a conversation the other day with some restaurant people, and we were talking about the food. I tasted for the first time pasta con le sarde, which it has a whole different layer and complexity of flavors. It's not your cheese, tomato, and basil basic recipe. It was definitely something that to me blew my mind. Pine nuts, the raisins.
You gotta go to Sicily. I've never been to Sicily.
You haven't been to Sicily? You gotta go. Come on.
I've been literally like in every region in Italy other than Sicily.
That's it. It's a different ballgame. It's a different ballgame. You gotta cross.
I never got on the boat.
From Calabria. Oh no, from Naples actually. You could actually go. It's a long trip. I recommend. I
want to go to one of the islands that they make wine in Sicily.
Pantelleria, Lipari. Pantelleria it's for me. It's like on the list.
It's like, right? Isn't it like? It's like the Caribbean down there.
Yeah, well, it's more closer to Africa. Let's mention that. Actually, Sicily, it's so close as far as being so close. And you see that also. You see that in the climate. Sirocco would be something that a lot of people might know, as far as like that wind that comes from the Levant, or that wind that comes from North Africa. it's the same thing as southern Spain too. I lived in southern Spain. I studied in southern Spain, so I see a lot of that Mediterranean connection or similarities in climate, also in the winemaking. It's very interesting. Pantelleria, Lipari, there's also other little islands around, which is very interesting because a lot of the closeness is also close to Malta. I think Malta is definitely an interesting island too.
Yeah,
or
a lot of Italians go to Malta.
Exactly. It's like so close within proximity too. And even in their language, they have a melting pot of so many different cultures. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting. To me, as a person in the wine business, I speak very highly of Italian wines. To me, when you drink Italian wines, it's an experience. It's an experience.
When you're drinking them there, it's different though, I feel like. I don't know.
You think so?
I just, I get, and there's some unbelievable California wines, but for some reason, when I'm drinking some of these wines here, it just feels different. It definitely feels, I mean, Long Island, they have to put pesticides and everything, so you're not really having an organic wine. But it gives me like a headache. I don't know what it is. When I go there, it just tastes cleaner. It tastes, it does. I don't know what it is. But have you ever been up north? Have you been to Barolo?
I haven't been yet. I have to. And I get a lot of that. I get a lot of years too that I got to head up there.
There's, so when I had the restaurant, our wine purveyor really hooked me up with, like, every time I went there, he hooked me up with just like tours of everywhere. So between, in Barolo, I've been to a few. My Marchesi di Barolo was my favorite. The family is like unbelievable. Like, they were just so. First and foremost, I found that the landscape was the most beautiful wine region that I've been to, because it's such a small condensed area and it's just vineyards. It's like 95% vineyards, 4% nut trees, and then like 1% houses. It's like, it's just all hills of wine. And it's like, you see that a little in Tuscany, but it's in Tuscany, there's still a little bit more going on. There's nothing, pictures don't do it justice. You got to go see it in person.
Absolutely. And perfect example, I never been to the area, but once I have that Barolo conversation, and when you taste Nebbiolo from that region, or Barbera d'Alba, Dolcetto, Timorasso is probably one of my favorites, which is a white wine coming out of Piemonte. You have Arnese, you have so many different wines and being produced out of that area. And let's keep it honest. Some of the probably one of the best Italian wine regions that really put Italian wines on the map. It's a different conversation, especially when you have an aged wine, either Barbaresco or Barolo. To me, it's true. There is this ritual, or like this emotional and spiritual connection when you smell on the nose. I know I'm starting to sound like a song, but I'm creating the moment. That herbal eucalyptus and rose petal
taste, like when you go
it's Italy
echelon of wine, wherever it is. It doesn't have to be Italy, it could be anywhere in the world, but when you get to that next level of wine, how much more complex the taste is.
It is.
It's like there's so much going on. There really is so much going on. We are Italy Connect. You got to go to Fontana Fredda in Barolo.
Yeah, Fontana Fredda. Yeah, but I definitely could go out there with the Farinettis, make that phone call. But it's true. And then I just feel that there's this penmarkship with Italian wines. The same thing when you taste an aging Brunello, or even I'm gonna speak on behalf of the natural wine movement too, and smaller producers, where it's a whole different style of winemaking. I think it's a lot of the identity of the region, and it really does transport you into that euphoric or sense of state, and where you just feel like you understand from a technical standpoint. I'm tasting technicalities, and I'm tasting how the wine is, or looking for faults or looking for flaws, but then at the same time, it's almost understanding the work of art and piece of art that it's brought from the land and the producer, and it's just really a story that you're really tasting throughout your senses. It's mind-blowing to me. So someone told me when I started getting into the Italian wine industry specifically, they told me, you're gonna fall in love with Italian wine. I'm like, really? Is there such thing? I'm like, yeah, you're gonna fall in love. And it's true.
It also helps.
It's true. It's
like,
true.
You're drinking it and you're like in like some beautiful place. Like
Well, that's a whole different
you have
story,
like,
right?
unbelievable food in front of you. Like you're like, this is great.
Yeah. Or
We're like a little
listen,
more alert.
yeah, more alert, or believe it or not, also the experience. So I do concur with you in that element, that it does feel different, because working at a vineyard, let's say in Sicily, and I'm tasting the wine that I probably tasted it in New York City, but being there and surrounded by the setting, the sounds, the vibe.
The air's different.
Yeah, hands down, for sure. But it's a beautiful thing, and I just also want to highlight that in Italy is good quality wine and so many to discover. I'm personally fascinated by different areas right now. Lazio, the last time I went to Italy, I spent a lot of time in between Rome and in Campania and Sicily, but in Rome was big to me because I came back and started going into wine bars and tasting local stuff that I never heard of.
Don't even have it, right? It's
Yeah.
like, you gotta really search. There's so many like people. It's sometimes like the wine choices are so basic when they're in so many regions. Not like not just Italy. There's so many different kinds of wine that you never even would have. They're not at the local wine shop. They're just not. There's sometimes it's just too small of a production, or they just don't import. There's not the demand for it, or whatever the case is. But you see that a lot in Italy. I like the Rome region. I think there's so many like the hidden areas. You got by the coast. By coast, it really, literally like right by the airport. Go by the coast.
Ostia.
But Ostia, but it had a bad reputation in the past.
Of course.
But it's clean. It's clean. Definitely cleaned up. Certain parts are still a little rough. Just the mafia that just controls it. But there's still like premier spots. You go to these beach clubs. They're sick. They're awesome. I went there. I had to wait. Last time the 2 times ago was in Italy. My mom and I were going to fly together. When we get to the airport, her passport was expired.
Oh boy.
The woman's on top of everything. We get to the airport. She puts it in like the thing to scan. And it's like a big X.
You're kidding me.
I wanted to wait for her, but they said if I waited, I would lose my ticket. So I went to Italy and went to Rome, because we go to Rome and then we rent a car and drive down to our town. And I had to wait a day. So she went to Connecticut. She did the express
At the first one.
And took a flight the next day. So I was in Rome and I went to Ostia. I stayed in Ostia. And then the next morning, because she came in a little bit later, a little more inland, it was the Festa della Porchetta. So there's a town next to Rome that was like, I guess like the originators of the porchetta or something. So they have like this big porchetta feast. And I went there and I got a porchetta sandwich from like some like 90-year-old woman that like been working at a deli for the last like 60 years. She's been making porchetta for like 60 years. Nice little afternoon, nice little day and a half.
And speaking of that, Rome was the first place that I actually, stayed when I was like a college student and backpacking. And as I mentioned, I have family that migrated in the early 80s, late 70s, and they have kids. So I have cousins that are Italian, born in Italy, and speak both language. And just seeing that other subculture of Dominican or Latino creating a life in an Italian environment, and every time I go, I definitely visit them and so on. I think it's that connection. I feel very identified in the sense that I'm an immigrant too. My family migrated here also decades ago, and I lived here too. And having the opportunity to assimilate, of course, not just the Italian culture, but so many different other cultures have really given me the identity that I have. I am very I'm global. There's the ethnic background of me, there's the nationality aspect of me, but Yumi, me. I am so global. I love everyone, and culture to me is a way to understand and get to know people. I think it's very important, right?
When
So
you're not global and making wine in 11 different countries or wherever you are, where can we find you right now?
New York City, definitely.
And any restaurants in particular that you're at, or like I know with everything going on, you're kind of like, moving around a little bit, or are you at a spot?
Well, at the moment right now, definitely not. I'm still in the search. That's the conversation, definitely on the market. So, but definitely you'll able to find me in New
Who
York
knows?
City.
Maybe from this we'll get not only get you get the Sicilian boyfriend, but maybe we'll get you some like high paying job somewhere, like with some a business partner of some sorts. Like this girl knows so much about
Investors.
wine. I gotta invest in her. This girl's gotta open up a wine bar or something.
Absolutely. There you go. Well, you're able to find me in a lot of different Italian places. I would say I'm a pizza head. So I think that's what also brought us together. Too bad that there isn't any slice out hunger this year. Otherwise, we would have been there. So you'll see me a lot of the pizzerias, definitely Sommelier Napoli, Rivalta.
That's right. You were at Ribalta last time I called you.
I was at Rivalta with Rosario and Pasquale, which are great people. So also bringing that, the fact that I'm really in the mix with the Italian community is something that I really enjoy. Wine bars too. I mean, I'm everywhere, when it comes to that, and I'm able to also recommend some wine places or some locations. So, but hopefully this shall pass.
We're gonna have an update for you for sure, because you have all the qualities to do whatever you want. And once obviously things calm down, I'm sure with the restaurants opening up and everything, that there's a very bright road ahead for you. And I'm excited to see that, and we'll definitely have a little update conversation.
Absolutely. And something that I wanted to sort of conclude that, this is momentary, or this is momentarily, and where it's just not forever. And people that are also going through the same situation, and where they're not in a place full-time employed or so on. I think let's not forget about the subject that this is something in where you could work on yourself and start seeing or generating ideas how you could create within that element. This is definitely a great time to soul search, to connect, to network. It's very important to keep transparency. I know that the psyche could be a little bit almost embarrassing. There's people that probably have worked all their lives, and they're faced with the situation, and it's beyond the control, but at the same time, it just really builds a bigger and stronger character. I know that in the wine business, I have no expiration date. I've done so many things within the wine business, retail communication and sales, and I've sold wine, and from business to business, and I've done everything. I've made wine, I've traveled. That's my passion. That's definitely a place in where I envision myself. So it's just working around the areas to really combine and solidify my passion. I know that. So to me, that's the fire that keeps me going, and also intertwining the fact that having the opportunity of learning a culture like Italian culture is something that also keeps me invigorated in learning more. So
you chose a good path. I think that if you can say whatever, anyone can say what they want with the Italian economy and whatnot, but the wine sector in Italy ain't going anywhere.
No, absolutely. People drink wine, and wine
drinking more wine now than ever.
Also part of the culture. I think that something that I was gravitated is the perception. Yes, there is the element of the wine world, the wine people, and the wine connoisseurs, but at the end of the day, we cannot forget that if you're a winemaker, or if you're making wine for the people, the masses, right? Not everybody is a connoisseur, but at the same time, people are a connoisseur, because there is this immediate connection of whether you like a wine or not. Is that holistic connection as a human being. Wine is a human act. It's been around for so many different civilizations. Also in Italy, we're talking about Enotria, right? We're talking about the Romans, Etruscans, and before them, wine has been an element in people's human culture, society, and history, it's not going anywhere. And that's, to me, what I love. You know, seeing that old man that would highly regard a glass of wine as food, it was considered to be a dietary element.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Having that appreciation, whether it's religious or historical or whatever it is, to me, wine, it's an element of the people. We can never forget that we are making wine for them, not just for a selected group of people. So that's what keeps me motivated in Basta.
I think I gotta have a glass for lunch today.
I know, right? Right? Which is very common, right?
Nothing wrong with
culture, the culture of drinking wine is also that is just really attractive to me, and sitting there and breaking bread, and whether if it's a house wine or if it's a Sassicaia or, you know, a Gaia, or, you know, there's always that. And when you sit down with a highly regarded winemaker, or when you're out there, there's that connection. I think there's that element of bringing it back to like, yeah, well, we are making wine for the people. Otherwise, who else is going to drink it? Ci siamo? Are we in it? You know, so that was very, you know, like, in that sense, and that's what brings it. And to me, that's the holistic and philosophical approach that I have as a foreigner, as a person that somehow is intertwined and has a connection with Italian heritage. To me, is that. And it has opened a lot of doors. I've done 3 harvests, also one in Etna, and till today, I'm still very much connected to the Italian winemaking profile. And you could talk to me. And also, let's not forget, to learn Italian wine varieties for a lot of people is very difficult, because there's so many different regions, there's so many different grapes, there's so many different people making wine out there, that it becomes a little different. And of course, that could be a part 2 of the intricacies of Italian wine and regulations, right? I'm throwing it out there. But
just on a class.
A class, right? There you go. But what I always say, and whenever I taught people and whenever I speak about it, there's a formula. Wine is personal. Wine is regional. You get to learn the story of the people behind a glass or behind a wine. And it just opens up a whole different door. The culture, the region, break it down. There's 20 regions, right? So you break it down, have fun with it, start learning region by region, get to know the food, get to know the local connection within that wine and what's around it, right? And then the rest is just fun. That's my advice.
We got to get together for a glass, wherever that is, the city, Long Island. There's one spot I think that definitely got to go to at some point. It's in Rhode Island. It's in the Federal Hill. It's in the Italian block. My buddy, he imports all his wines from southern Italy, so all Neapolitan and Sicilian wines. And he there's no menu. It's him and his wife. It's a great little spot. I think he's closed right now because I think he only has 7 tables. It's just him and his wife, and they have one person that helps cook. The kids sometimes they're running around. It's like literally like a place in Italy. It's awesome. They close for the month of August. They close for like October. They go to Italy 2 times a year, and there's no menu. It's fixed price. They may come up with something every week. It's awesome.
I guess I'm gonna have to head up there. Yeah. Or whenever are you coming back? When are you coming back? And look forward to seeing you here in New York. You and I have collaborated before in the past, and that was fun. And I hope to see you here. Absolutely. You're definitely dearly missed here in New York, and come back whenever you're ready for a visit, and we'll go out there and discover some slice and pizza or whatever it is, and we'll be in touch, right?
Yeah, definitely. All right.
I want to leave you with something that a friend, and I guess it's a mantra, that one of the winemakers that was very pivotal in that decision making of me leaving a high-paying job to go and harvest. He said something that really resonated with me, and it just really put the clarity of making a decision, right? Mm-hmm. And he said to me, "Al cuore non si comanda." Mm-hmm. Al cuore non si comanda. The heart wants what the heart wants. That's I'm gonna leave it with that, right?
That's be
Follow your heart. Follow your heart, and I feel that it's a cycle. We have up moments, down moments, and it's about really staying true to your cause, to your purpose, and to your vision.
Well, I have no doubt about it that after all this, you will be on top of it all.
Thank you. I love that. I keep the well wishes. Thank you so much, Enzo. Have an amazing day.
To Yumi. Thank you so
Ciao,
much.
ciao. Bye. Ci vediamo. Buona giornata.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.